Stop and think about this for a moment. Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich in 1937. The book became an instant bestseller. Millions of copies sold. Hill became famous, wealthy, respected. By any measure, he had arrived. He was 54 years old and financially secure for the first time in his life. Most people would have protected that wealth, invested conservatively, lived comfortably for the rest of their days. But that's not what happened. Between 1940 and 1960, Napoleon Hill faced financial ruin 3 separate times. Not once, 3 times. After age 50. After writing the best-selling success book in history, after teaching millions of people how to build wealth, he lost nearly everything. Not once, but 3 times. And here's what makes this story so powerful. Each financial crisis taught him something he couldn't have learned any other way. Something he didn't fully understand when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. Something that transformed his teaching for the final 27 years of his life. If you think success protects you from financial setbacks, you're wrong. If you think wealth at 50 means security forever, you're wrong. And if you think one achievement guarantees future success, you're dangerously wrong. Hill learned these lessons the hardest way possible, by losing nearly everything repeatedly after he thought he'd finally made it. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes and I'll tell you exactly what happened, why it happened, and what Hill learned from facing financial ruin 3 times after 50. Because these lessons matter more than anything he wrote in Think and Grow Rich. Before we go deeper, comment right now, financial setbacks after 50 are not the end. Because what you're about to learn will either terrify you or liberate you. Hit like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these life-changing lessons, and let's discover what Napoleon Hill learned from facing financial ruin 3 times after age 50. Here's what happened. In 1937, Think and Grow Rich was published. Within 3 years, it sold over 1 million copies. Hill was earning substantial royalties. He was giving paid lectures across America. He was finally, at age 54, financially comfortable. He bought a nice house. He invested in various business ventures. He started living the life he'd taught others to achieve. But by 1940, just 3 years after his greatest success, Hill faced his first major financial crisis. His investments had failed. He'd loaned money to friends who never paid him back. He'd spent freely, assuming the royalties would continue forever at the same level. They didn't. Sales slowed. His speaking fees dropped as America entered World War II and people had other concerns. And suddenly, Hill was 57 years old with almost no money, no savings, and no plan. Most people would have been devastated, but Hill, to his credit, saw this as a test of whether the principles he taught actually worked when you lost everything. So he applied them. He created a new, definite purpose. He used auto-suggestion to rebuild his mental state. He took action despite circumstances. And within 2 years, by 1942, he'd rebuilt his finances. Not to the same level as before, but stable. He was earning income again, teaching again, moving forward. He thought he'd learned his lesson. Be more careful with money. Don't invest recklessly. Protect what you build. But that wasn't the real lesson. That was just the surface lesson. The real lesson was deeper, and Hill wouldn't learn it until he faced crisis again. In 1952, at age 69, Hill faced the second major turning point of his later life. But this time it wasn't just financial crisis. It was a complete career rebirth. Clement Stone, a self-made insurance millionaire, approached Hill with a proposition. Stone had built his fortune using Hill's principles from Think and Grow Rich. Now he wanted to partner with Hill to create something new, a way to teach success principles to a modern audience. This partnership would become one of the most productive periods of Hill's life. Together, they founded Success Unlimited magazine and co-authored Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. But what most people don't know is that this partnership came at a moment when Hill was again facing financial uncertainty. At 69, with inconsistent income and mounting expenses, Hill could have played it safe. Instead, he took the risk. He partnered with Stone. He started over in many ways, learning new methods, adapting to new audiences, rebuilding from a position of financial vulnerability. And this second crisis taught him something crucial, something he hadn't fully understood before. Success is not a destination. It's a process. You never arrive. You're always building. And if you stop building, even for a moment, you start declining. Hill realized he'd made a mistake both times he faced financial trouble. He'd thought success was something you achieve and then maintain. You get rich, then you protect your wealth. You reach the top, then you stay there. But that's not how success works. Success requires constant motion, constant creation, constant growth. The moment you stop creating and start protecting, you've already begun losing. That's the principle Hill discovered through his second crisis, and it changed everything. At 69, instead of protecting and conserving, Hill started creating again. He wrote new material. He developed new programs with Stone. He found new ways to teach and serve. And this collaboration became one of the most fruitful periods of his life. But here's what's remarkable. He didn't rebuild to create security. He rebuilt to keep growing. That shift in mindset changed everything. Then in 1960, at age 77, Hill faced financial uncertainty for the third time. Not complete ruin, but serious challenges. Medical expenses had drained his savings. Some investments hadn't performed as expected. And once again, he was facing potential financial difficulty in his late 70s. And this third crisis taught him the deepest lesson of all. The lesson that defined his final years. Here it is. Your value is not in what you've accumulated, it's in what you can create. Hill realized that every time he faced financial crisis, he could rebuild. Not because of his savings or his past success, but because of his ability to create value for others. As long as he could think, teach, write, and serve, he could generate income. His security wasn't in his bank account, it was in his mind. That realization was absolutely liberating, because it meant he could never truly be destitute. Even if he lost all his money, he still had his ability to create, and that ability only increased with age and experience. Let me tell you what Hill wrote in his private journal after the third financial challenge. He wrote, "I spent the first 50 years of my life trying to get rich so I could be secure. But security is an illusion. There is no amount of money that makes you truly secure because circumstances can always take it away. What I've learned after facing financial uncertainty 3 times is this. Real security comes from knowing you can create value regardless of circumstances. I am 77 years old. I have modest savings. I could face financial difficulty again, but I am not afraid because I know that as long as I have my mind, my voice, my ability to serve others, I can create whatever I need. That knowledge is worth more than any bank account." That's what financial crisis after 50 taught Napoleon Hill. And it's the lesson most people never learn because they never face that level of uncertainty. The Stoics understood this principle completely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Hill realized after 3 financial crises that external wealth was an outside event. He couldn't control it completely, but his ability to create value was internal. That he could always control. Epictetus taught, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Hill learned to want less security and more purpose, less accumulation and more creation. That shift made him richer in his 70s and 80s than he'd ever been in his 40s and 50s. Not in money, but in peace, clarity, and power. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Hill stopped craving security after the third challenge. He started embracing uncertainty, And in that embrace, he found freedom. Now let me tell you the 3 specific lessons Hill learned from facing financial ruin 3 times after 50. Lesson 1 from the first crisis. Success does not create permanent security. Hill thought that once he achieved success with Think and Grow Rich, he was set for life. But success is temporary. Circumstances change, markets shift, people's interests evolve. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. The only real security is the ability to adapt, create, and add value continuously. You can never stop growing. You can never retire from relevance. The moment you think you've arrived, you've started the journey backward. Lesson 2 from the second crisis in the Stone partnership. You cannot protect your way to security. Hill could have played it safe at 69. He could have been conservative, protective of what little he had left. But protection is a defensive posture, and you cannot win in life playing defense. You can only win by playing offense, creating, building, serving, growing. Hill learned that trying to protect what you have makes you fearful, conservative, and eventually obsolete. But focusing on what you can create makes you bold, innovative, and valuable. After the second crisis, Hill stopped trying to protect his money and started trying to maximize his impact. His partnership with Stone became one of the most productive periods of his life. That shift changed everything. Lesson 3 from the third challenge. Your real wealth is your ability to create value for others. This is the big one. Hill realized at 77 that he could lose all his money and still be wealthy. Because wealth isn't what you have, wealth is what you can generate. As long as you have knowledge, skills, experience, and the willingness to serve others, you can create income regardless of your circumstances. But the moment you stop creating value, you become dependent on what you've accumulated. And what you've accumulated can always be taken away. Hill wrote, "I thought I was teaching people how to get rich, but what I should have been teaching is how to become valuable. Because valuable people can always get rich. But rich people who aren't valuable eventually face financial difficulty again." So what does this mean for you practically? First, if you're over 50 and you've achieved some level of success, don't make Hill's first mistake. Don't think you've arrived. Don't shift into protection mode. Keep creating, keep growing, keep adding value. Your past success guarantees nothing about your future. Second, don't make Hill's second mistake. Don't try to protect your way to security. Security is an illusion. There is no safe position. There is no guaranteed outcome. The only real safety is your ability to adapt and create in any circumstance. So instead of protecting what you have, focus on developing what you can do. Skills, knowledge, relationships, contribution. Those things can't be taken away. Third, and most importantly, build your wealth on value creation, not accumulation. Ask yourself every day, what value am I creating? Who am I serving? What problem am I solving? How am I making someone's life better? As long as you're creating genuine value, money will flow. But if you stop creating value and just try to manage what you've accumulated, you're already in decline. Hill learned this lesson 3 times. Don't make him learn it 4 times through you. Fourth, understand that financial setbacks, losses, crises, none of these things define you. They're just events, temporary circumstances. Hill faced financial ruin 3 times after 50, and he's remembered as one of the greatest success teachers in history. Why? Because he didn't let setbacks define him. He let his response to setbacks define him. Every time he lost nearly everything, he rebuilt. Not because he had to, because he could. And that ability, that resilience, that commitment to keep creating regardless of circumstances, that's what made him truly wealthy. Fifth, embrace uncertainty instead of fearing it. Hill spent the first 50 years of his life chasing security, and he never found it. But after facing financial crisis 3 times, he stopped chasing security and started embracing uncertainty. He said, "I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know if I'll have money or face difficulty. I don't know if my work will succeed or fail. And I don't need to know, because I know something more important. I know I can handle whatever comes. I can create, I can adapt, I can serve. That's all I need to know." That mindset, that embrace of uncertainty, gave Hill more peace in his 70s and 80s than any amount of money gave him in his 40s and 50s. Here's what Hill would tell you if he were alive today and you're over 50. Stop trying to protect what you've built and start building something new. Stop worrying about security and start creating value. Stop fearing loss and start embracing the adventure of not knowing what comes next. Because the truth is, you're going to lose things. Money, position, health, people. Everything external is temporary. But your ability to create, to contribute, to add value, that's eternal. That lasts as long as you do. And when you realize that, when you truly internalize that your security comes from what you can do, not what you have, everything changes. Fear disappears, anxiety fades, and you become genuinely free, free to take risks, free to try new things, free to fail and rebuild, free to live fully until your last breath. Hill faced financial ruin 3 times after 50, and each time he came back stronger. Not because he had more money, but because he had more wisdom, more clarity, more understanding of what actually matters. And what matters is not accumulation, it's creation. Not protection, it's contribution. Not security, it's purpose. That's what Hill learned. That's what financial crisis after 50 taught him. And that's what he spent his final 27 years teaching, with a depth and authenticity he couldn't have had without those losses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Hill learned to see financial setbacks not as loss, but as change. And change, painful as it was, forced him to grow in ways comfort never could. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Hill reacted to crisis by rebuilding, 3 times. That reaction defined him more than any success ever could. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Hill's 3 financial crises strengthened his mind more than 29 years of research ever did. Because research teaches you what others learned. Experience teaches you what you need to know. So here's my question for you. If you lost everything tomorrow, could you rebuild? Not in theory, actually. Do you have the skills, knowledge, relationships, and mental strength to create value and generate income regardless of circumstances? If the answer is yes, you're truly wealthy. If the answer is no, you're vulnerable no matter how much money you have. Hill learned that lesson 3 times. Don't wait for crisis to learn it yourself. Start building your real wealth now. Your ability to create value, your capacity to serve others, your mental resilience, your adaptability. Those things are worth more than any bank account, because bank accounts can empty, but skills, knowledge, and character compound forever. Comment, financial setbacks after 50 are not the end. Like this video so others learn what Hill discovered through 3 financial crises. Subscribe to the channel because we're teaching the lessons most people only learn through devastating loss. And share this with someone over 50 who needs to hear that their value isn't in what they've accumulated, but in what they can create. Napoleon Hill faced financial ruin 3 times after 50, and each time he proved that real wealth can't be taken away because it lives in your mind, your skills, and your willingness to serve. That's the lesson. Build that kind of wealth and you'll never truly be destitute. Let's go.